Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange. If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park.
Two events remain in the season, and the championship battle continues to rage on through the heights of upstate New York into a fast and momentum-driven track built for only the bravest. Tonight, we welcome you to the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 and the Pro Class live from the virtual Watkins Glen International Circuit as we bring you our coverage live on Podium Esports. Alongside DJ Clark in the broadcast booth, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Cameron Alberton is on our social media pages. Ryan Bauer will produce all the shots you'll see this evening. He's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. A lot of excitement to cover here from Watkins Glen, but before we get to the racing on track, we'll remind you that Series 10 is brought to you by the Porsche Exchange, which has been family owned and operated for over 40 years. Located on the North Shore of Chicago, the Porsche Exchange has grown to be the largest volume Porsche dealer in the entire Midwest. Along the way, they've won the Porsche Premier Dealership Award for many years in a row and has been chosen to be one of the few Porsche exclusive manufactured dealerships in the entire country. To find out more, you can go to 4Porsche.com or follow at Porsche Exchange on Instagram. Also a note that the Six Sigma Sim Racing is proud to announce the Season 10 Clean Driver Award. One driver in each PCA Sim Racing class will win a Six Sigma Sim Racing $250 merchandise gift certificate. This goes to whoever earns the fewest incident points and license penalty points from their best 6 races this season. For more information, you can head over to sixsigmasimracing.com. DJ, this is the penultimate race of Series 10 for the Pro Class, and we head to a big track, Watkins Glen International, that's really fast and really, really brave if you're a driver going through it.
Yeah, it certainly is, Kenneth. And this track, as you said in that intro, it's all about momentum, momentum, momentum. Keeping up that maximum corner speed through particularly the back half of this circuit, going down through the outer loop and down through the boot section of the track. But don't sleep on the run through the 90. That is turn 1. Very, very crucial to set up a good run through that corner to be able to maximize speed up through the S's and try to make a diving pass into the inner loop. But you've got to be a little bit careful. As you said, you've got to be brave around here, but you've also got to be a little bit cautious. If you try to take just a little bit more out of these corners, a little bit more through the inner loop, a little bit more down through the boot, it'll come back to bite you real quick.
Yeah, we've seen that be a consistent problem with tracks that lack a lot of runoff. You catch a piece of the grass, the car goes sideways, and you're basically a passenger at that point. Many intricacies to this Watkins Glen International Circuit that we'll be touching on over the course of tonight's 60-minute feature. But DJ, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. That is the point standings going into tonight's penultimate race of the season. The magic number going into this one is just 1. Jesse Lyon, Christopher Pice with a 1-point separation that is included with the 2 drops over the season. Lyon holding on to it by just a sliver, and qualifying might make the difference between a gap extending or maybe an overtake in the championship lead.
Yeah, very much so. And let's not forget here, these drivers do get points in qualifying, so you're going to have to keep an eye on that here for them. Jesse's certainly looking like the stronger point here, but just a single point and just a single bad race here could spell disaster for either of our drivers. So I think it's going to be crucial both for Jesse and Christopher to not only have a good result here today, but have a clean result.
And Christopher also coming off of a lot of momentum. The win at Hockenheim Ring just a couple of weeks ago might just cement himself in a spot where he can take over the championship lead. But as qualifying wanes down to a close, it appears that Jesse Lyon has the upper hand. A quick reminder that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing to find out more. So as qualifying comes down to a close, we have our entire field, and we'll head down trackside and give you it for tonight's Watkins Glen International Race for the Pro Class. Rafael Amorim with the fastest time out of them all, a 146.859. We'll put him first on the grid. Jesse Lyon looking to hold on to his championship advantage. We'll be right behind him in second. Leif Peterson rounds out the rest of the podium at a 147.227. Logan Grotto will be in P4. Matthew Siddall with a nice qualifying effort to put him fifth. Chris Pies drops all the way to sixth, so kind of on the back foot for qualifying points. We'll try to overtake the championship lead through the feature. Justin Sang coming off of some good finishes as of late. He comes home in seventh for qualifying. Eighth will go to Chris Braun. Ninth to Thomas Briggs, and DJ Clark rounding out your top 10, Enrico Gregorato.
It's going to be Mark Nistor in 11th place, followed by Nick Melorano with Jake Faulkner and James Huth there in row 7. Andy Jenks will be to the inside of row 8, followed by Patty Patterson. Then it's Ryan Cowley, Nick Facciolo, Jacob Schum, Daniel Rubel to round out your top 20.
Dale Green in the 250 is 21st. Joe Stiefel in the 003 is 22nd. James Fransnick in the 39 rounds out our 23-car field from Watkins Glen International. And this is such a good view on the racetrack of where everybody is lined up, DJ. This is coming off of the last corner of the boot, so we'll be heading into what would be in the NASCAR layout, turn 6 and 7, but this is the final set of corners up to turn 12. And look at all that, DJ, that these drivers have to deal with. Elevation changes and negative runoff.
Yeah, very, very much so. In this turn 9 that these drivers are going to start out in, watch for us to talk about this corner over the course of the race. It's a very, very tricky corner. Comes up, flattens out right at the very tip top. And as it does, it's very easy to lose the rear end of the car. And so I would not be surprised if we see a driver or two at least getting a little bit sideways, maybe even to making some contact there with the signature baby blue Armco.
And maybe we might see some chaos at this sector of the track as they'll come off the final handful of corners. And this is the second time in this PCA Sim Racing Series 10 Pro Class season that these drivers utilize the Porsche 911 GT3 Cupper, otherwise known as the 992. The last time we raced that car was back at Suzuka, race number 3, where our championship leaders rounded out 3rd and 4th. Pace cars down. Rafael Amorim and Jesse Lyon take the green flag as they chase for turn 1 for the first time. 3-4 wide heading into the corner. Amorim has the advantage. Lyon files out in second. Looks like Leif Peterson does a nice job to hold on to third. And side by side, Christopher Pais trying to hold off Matthew Siddall into the S's.
Yeah, that was a really good move there by Leif Peterson to be able to move his way forward, and very good stuff there by Chris Pies, already up 1 position as they run. And now here comes that big old draft coming into play as they work their way down into the inner loop.
This is going to be tricky, though. You do not want to go side by side through the bus stop, or like you said, inner loop, very narrow. Drivers can hit the grass. Everybody okay as they hop over the curbs. 1 car off, and that is Matthew Siddall on the number 4 car, so he'll drop back through position and will try to end up in somewhere safe through the carousel down to the beginning of the boot. And it looks like Pies doing a nice job of holding on to the top 5. And it looks like as well, DJ, nobody able to pull away from one another over this first half lap, because Lyon is right on the tail of Amorim through the boot.
Yeah, and that's to be expected here. Again, the draft around this circuit, very, very powerful. Now let's see here. Jesse can get a good run here going down to the heel of the boot. This has become a more crucial overtaking opportunity since the rescan of the circuit. Jesse not going to go for it here at this point, but watch for that to maybe play out a little bit later on.
That's a big point you make as well, DJ. This Watkins Glen International track was not rescanned for a long time. We were off on the 2008-2007 scan of the Watkins Glen track. The surface was very rough, very abrasive, really hard to get through the corners without stepping out of the race car, at least stepping out the rear end of it. But now with this rescan, track is much more smoothened out. The curves are refined in their own way to up to current spec, and obviously has changed the way it drives. And with these cars that are so reliant on downforce, you're expected a lot of those challenges with the bumps have been mitigated. There's Jesse Lyon holding on in second, and gap has ballooned to around 0.3 of a second, so Amorim able to hold on and look off the rear end of the Peak State Region driver through the S's, and a nice run off the corner for Lyon. We'll see if he's got the draft to make a pass.
And it looks like he's going to take a little bit of a look down to the inside, going down the back straightaway. I don't think that was a full commitment to a move. Maybe just seeing if he could get Rafael to bite on that play a little bit, but one way or the other, doesn't look like he's having any of it here at this point. They're just going to run single file order. Leif Peterson lurking in the background. Logan Grotto, Chris Pies, only separated by 2 seconds here as your top 5.
Yeah, everybody mostly wrapped underneath the blanket as Thomas Briggs goes for an inside move on Justin Sang heading into the boot, but it looks like that will not make any work, at least cut out for him, but Briggs goes sideways, and it looks like everybody does a nice job to avoid him. Boy, things are getting really close. Never mind, a huge slam, and I believe that was Nick Facciolo that got into him, so Briggs and Facciolo in a hellacious crash through the boot.
Yeah, big contact there, and that's what you've got to watch out for. Coming down into the chute there, that is a blind corner as you come out of it there, and so he had just absolutely nowhere to go. Briggs has taken a toe back down into pit lane. I can report that here at this moment.
Oh, so tough there for Briggs, and we'll see what Facciolo does. We can imagine with the significant front-end damage he's got on his number 717, he's going to have to ship it to pit road and get some repairs done. He's in a fight with Daniel Rubel for 21st on the racetrack. As you look on board, right behind Nick Melorano, this is the number 1 car, Ryan Cowley, who at the Hockenheim ring came home in the P12 spot, so not the greatest finish over in Germany, but now that we're back in the States, Cowley going to look to get a rebound here, and currently tussling for that 13th spot on the Dunkin' Donuts Porsche 992. In a turn 1 is we might just have a side-by-side battle at around the mid-pack that was easily settled out. And a look back at your race lead. Here's Lyon with a chance to respond on Amarum, but he will back out. I think probably the smarter move there, DJ, not to make it side-by-side for the inner loop. Don't ruin your chances so early on.
Yeah, exactly. You've got plenty of speed here if you're Jesse Lyon. You know you can get the run on Amarin. Better take that high percentage move where you know it's going to work out. The other thing that he's going to be able to do here at this point, and maybe something that Jake Faulkner, who we ride on board with the Lone Star Region driver, decides to do as well, is maybe tuck behind the driver in front of you here a little bit. Lift off some of these down some of these long straightaways and save a little bit of fuel. It's not the craziest idea to be able to pull off, and it's certainly played out to perfection yesterday for a couple of our drivers going for that overcut.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. With these long straights, you have so much more of an opportunity to save that fuel and let off the throttle a little bit when you're really tailing behind somebody. Here's Matthew Siddall in his number 4 car, and boy, we saw him drop like a rock through the inner loop. And around the first lap, had a bit of a struggle there, hopped through the grass, and luckily no harm, no foul for the 4 car, so he was able to continue, but still in this battle at around 4 or 5 cars, give or take, that's led by Enrico Gregorato in his 771 machine, then Jake Faulkner, Mark Nistor, and then of course Siddall, like we just mentioned. Andy Jenks also behind in this group as well, but they have really fallen off of your leaders. We make it the top 6 or 7 or so have really pulled away, now to the tune of 2.1 seconds. Gregorato to Braun, that's for 7th.
Yeah, and I wonder here at this point if we're starting to see maybe a little bit of what happened to Chris Braun there, as he looked like he fell back down through the order a little bit, but he's showing his, I'm sorry, I was thinking of Chris Pies there, that's my bad. But a little bit interesting here for Gregorato. We saw this yesterday, him almost being like a little bit of a cork in the bottle here for some drivers working his way up ahead of him as they go. And so there it looks like Faulkner's going to be able to send that move on him. And I would not be surprised here if we see more drivers getting their way by Enrico in short order, as if he is indeed a little bit of a cork in the bottle, they're going to be very, very eager to try to work their way on by.
Yeah, Gregorato being rather patient right now, and it seems to be working for guys like Faulkner and Nistor and all these guys who are just catching up to him and trying to make these passes happen. It worked out for Faulkner, so he's got clean air for just a little bit. That gap, though, has grown to Chris Braun in 7th at around 2.7, 2.8 seconds. So there really has been a chop-off in the field from 7th back to 8th, and then we've just had these big packs develop here in and here out. But so far, it looks like everybody mostly single file. Here's Nick Melorano in the background, looking underneath Andy Jenks. That looks to be for 12th.
Yeah, now it's going to be going down into the heel there, turn 8. You can see Jenks getting forced off wide. He shouldn't pick up an off track for that, and now he's going to have to fight his way forward there. That's going to be Ryan Cowley trying to make him pay a little bit for it. Very, very brave to go too wide through turn 9, but they're both going to make it play. Oh, barely avoiding contact there into 10.
And that was really close. And this track as well, DJ, narrows out in so many sections. I mean, we already talked about the inner loop. That's an obvious factor, but you look right there in those last two corners, turns 11 and 12, things can really get tough when you're side by side. How do you try to manage that as a driver when you're with these cars that are just a little bit wider, going through these corners that don't offer all that much space?
You got to be cognizant of it, and the truth of the matter is you see there exactly what Ryan Cowley did. You've got to know when to back off, when to keep going with those high percentage moves, the ones that you know are going to play out, especially this early on in the race, Kenneth. There's no purpose of going too wide through that section of the track. Better to back off and wait to fight another day.
Continue to watch this grouping at around 7th or 8th on back, rather. So Faulkner leading this group, Gregorato and Nistor here, 9th and 10th. And while these two drivers aren't necessarily in the spotlight for the top of the Series 10 Pro Class standings, they are indeed fighting for position in the standings nonetheless. It is for 11th, and also against Ryan Cowley, who's got that 10th points-paying spot. Nistor at 877 total. He missed the Hockenheimring race, but then came Gregorato, who ran at Hockenheimring a couple of weeks back and had a total of 904. And with their both qualifying respective efforts, Gregorato, who started 10th, and Nistor, who started 11th, rather close to each other. So although we're seeing two Titans at the front, DJ, battle for the championship, I mean, you still got the fight within the fight. These guys are still gripping and clawing for whatever they can get in these last two races.
Oh, most certainly, and it's a testament here to the pro class that they're all going to be going for it in very, very good heads-up maneuvers here. As we take a look at back here, that's Ryan Cowley trying to get that move again done on Andy Jenks. It looks like Cowley's got a lot more speed coming up through the boot, the back half of the boot. His problem is that the track just tightens up at that corner, at those portions like we talked about, and it's very, very difficult for him to get a move done.
He's been trying to work on that 12 for a while. It just really has not come out to fruition. And out of turn one, it's a solid exit. But again, track will narrow out through this high momentum S section where you're going up the hill at a high rate of speed, almost coming up to about 155 miles an hour, and even more so, 160 once you finally get out of that onto the main back straightaway. So he's going to give a bump here to Jenks. He'll back out and hop on the brakes before he can get to the inner loop. Official word from race control on the incident involving Nick Facciolo and Thomas Briggs. Race control decided it was a normal racing incident. Nothing Facciolo could have done, just a very blind corner. Last second move where Briggs is in the middle of the track, so no official penalties for either the 717 nor the 11. Good stuff by race control. Looks like they just noticed it. It was a tough place, tough time, as here's Nick Melorano on the fellow car, Matthew Sitto on the outside.
And this battle's been going on for a couple of corners here at this point. One of the great parts about this boot section of the Watkins Glen circuit is if you are able to go a little bit side by side down through those areas, you can keep that battle going through the chute down into the toe, and indeed finally breaking up here by the time they get to the heel, as that's going to be Siddall able to get his way on by. Melorano going to keep hunting here at this point. Took a little bit of a look down to the inside of turn 9. It's not going to go for him here at this point, but this battle up in front, this has really compressed all of these drivers. Siddall, Melorano, Jenks, Cowley, and Huth. They're all on top of each other here at this point.
Yeah, make it a quintuplet. I was about to say a dozen to make a Dunkin' Donuts reference, but not enough cars for that. Melorano in this group as these three. And Mark Nistor tailing that group has severely thinned out and pulled away from these guys. And it can be really tough as well, DJ, when you have this close of a group. These 4, 5, 6 cars, maybe if you can count Paddy Patterson at the tail end of this in P16. I mean, this could really choke up a lot of drivers' lines and their lap times, because as they fall off of the main packs in front of them, I mean, they're having to deal with traffic all the time because they're so close to each other. It could probably get a little frustrating when it's really hard to make a pass out here.
Yeah, very, very much so. These drivers that are a little bit farther back in the line, they're going to be eager to try to get their way forward, especially if they feel like they've got a little bit more speed. We're going to check out a little bit of a battle here. This is Enrico Gregorato. Remember, we talked about this, that Gregorato looked a little bit like a cork in the bottle. Well, here it looks like maybe going to take a replay here, or maybe a little bit of a mistake here for Enrico.
We'll see. This is between him and Faulkner. He does have the spot in 8th place, and we'll see. So this is the attempted pass going into the inner loop. And boy, that's a brave one. You don't see many of those passes happen at that part of the track, DJ. Gregorato said, I'm going to send it. Faulkner backed out and made it a clean effort, and both of them get by without any harm. Gregorato muscles back to 8th.
Yeah, he's going to bring his way back into 8th, and you certainly said the right thing there. That is really on Faulkner. Faulkner recognizing that that pass was coming and getting out of the throttle a little bit, letting Gregorato on by and not putting up too much of a fight. I saw it last night. If you try to go too wide through that corner, especially if you're down on the inside line, those curbs can really come back to bite you.
Oh yeah, that's true. These curbings here at Watkins Glen are brutal, and they're really not afraid to let you know that, DJ, and they were probably a little worse, admittedly, through the old scan of Watkins Glen where they weren't as smooth, but even then, I mean, these cars that somehow can take a little bit of a beating but are still rather sensitive to contact, they could really unsettle the car. And we saw it at Hockenheimring as well in the last round, DJ. A lot of the cars were hitting the curbs and getting loose and getting out unsettled, and those cars would go around and end up in an incident. So you really have to be aware of what goes down when you touch those orange and red, or rather orange and yellow curving here at Watkins Glen. It could be really tough. Battle for the lead still continuing as the top two have pulled away by a large margin. Back to 3rd place, Leif Peterson. Lion has been pretty much howling on the back bumper of Amarim's number 16 Porsche 992, but the biggest thing, DJ, is that he hasn't really pulled the trigger yet for a pass. Not sure if either that's intentional or it's just he's really struggling to get around.
You know, I've been keeping an eye here on Jesse Lyon through the course of this race, and I really think it's a little bit of the former here. I think he's just holding back a little bit, Kenneth. I think he's got the pace to put up a challenge here to Rafael, and I think it's going to be twofold here. He's saving his tires a little bit, trying to see if he can nurse them to the end of the race, and I think the other part of it is he's just saving a little bit of fuel here to try to minimize the time that he has to spend down in pit lane.
Well, yeah, that's definitely true, and that's probably going to be a big game changer, whether you under or overcut, is how much time you spend in that box getting a refuel. Here's Chris Pies, the number 14 car, the opposing driver to Jesse Lyon in this championship for the Pro Class. Again, only 1 point separated them before we even had our qualifying session here from Watkins Glen, but given the fact that Lyon qualified higher than Pies, Pies had to work his way up from P6, while Lyon has maintained in 2nd all race long. It appears that Pies now has to do a little extra work if he wants to fully overtake that number 115 car in the championship, and he's had his own share of struggles as well. He really hasn't caught up to Logan Grotto nor Leif Peterson. He's been hanging around this 5th place spot, and while it was a nice progression on the opening lap, it's really plateaued since then.
Yeah, he hasn't really been able to make up the ground that I would have expected him to do, and I think part of that is that he's caught in a little bit of a draft train here behind Leif Peterson. The same can be true here of Mark Niestorn, who's not really able to get a move done on Jake Faulkner or Enrico Gregorato, because any move that he would try to send on Faulkner, any advantage that we'd have here as courtesy of that draft, well, Faulkner's getting the same thing from Gregorato, but big lock up there coming down into the chute from Faulkner, and that's going to open up the door.
That's a disastrous run there for Faulkner as he locked up the brakes, and that could have easily been a tap into the Armco barrier if he got it into the grass, but luckily keeps it out of harm's way and holds on to the spot versus Mark Nister, but that will hold this pack up quite a bit, and Gregorato will have some extra elbow room to be able to pull away. Maybe, just maybe, he could start that chase on Chris Braun in the 7th place spot. You watch on board there with Faulkner's machine, and exactly how he can get back onto the race for that P8 spot. And watch the one building behind them, that battle between Matthew Siddle and Melorano, quite not done yet. And recently also, DJ, saw a pass for 13th. Cowley finally got by the 12 of Jenks.
Yeah, finally did. So all of these battles just continuing to percolate here as we're only about a quarter of the way down in this race as they run. Plenty of time left here to go. Nick Melorano keeping with the theme of his car there with the shirt that he's got on. Love to see that from him. He's going to keep trying to work here on the back of Matthew Siddall. Good run down into the 90. Maybe a little bit too close here, though. And that's one of the things, Kenneth. Yes, NASCAR does run around this circuit, but you got to think about the run coming out of the 90, out of turn 1, a little bit like you're running on an oval. You've got to get the timing of this right. You don't want to poke your nose out too early, or you're going to lose some of that draft and not be able to make the pass that's going down into the inner loop.
Yeah, that's true. Rotating the nose is very important after turn 1 and making sure you can grab the exit and pretty much build that off. Because, I mean, like we talked about, DJ, at the top of the show, momentum is so important here. And right after turn 1, you have a momentum-filled S's section to a long back straightaway before you get into that hard-braking inner loop section of the course. So you really got to make sure that things go your way out of that corner. So here's Jacob Schum on board with the Carolinas region driver as he holds on to 17th right now, sort of in a league of his own, about 3.8 seconds ahead of the next car behind him, Dale Green, and about 1.4 seconds and 1.5 seconds off of the car in front, Patty Patterson in the 29. Schum, though, did start this race back in 19th and up +2 since the start of this race, so over 10 laps. It's been a decent progression for Schumann. One of the most colorful cars in this field. I was about to say, DJ, that Melorano takes the cake, or I guess takes the donut for his scheme, but Jacob Schum loved the purple and the green on his car tonight.
You know, we were talking a little bit last night about how the fact you don't see a whole lot of purple cars out in the real world. Love to see a few of them permeating here into the PCA. We jump back on board with the #1 machine. Ryan Cowley still trying to work behind Nick Melorano. Again, stuck in a little bit of that draft train behind here. Siddall going to be breaking the air for everybody in front of him. Melorano and Cowley going to be trying to close up behind here, but maybe a little bit of a mistake there for Melorano. Didn't quite get that momentum that he would have liked to out of the 90. Let's see if Cowley tries to make him pay.
Cowley tried there into the first S, but unfortunately could not carry it through the second or third. He's going to maintain at around 1/10 of a second, about a car length between these two, and not enough time for Cowley to fully go after that pass for 12th. But the biggest thing is that he sent out that warning sign to Melorano. That's for sure. He's better off turn 1. He can probably make that pass if Melorano continues to slip up. So it may be only a matter of time, or maybe Melorano could respond in the best way possible. He's going to hold on to that spot entering the first part of the boot. Going to head for the toe here, which is a rather interesting corner because we talk about the downhill carousel that comes directly after the inner loop. That's one of the more challenging parts of this Watkins Glen International Circuit, but not many people talk about the toe of the boot. It's an uphill carousel or hairpin corner, if you can call it that, and is a really tough one to drive because sometimes you really don't get that angle right. When you go up the hill, it's sort of a blind corner and you can end up in the grass and that Armco barrier. It's a really hard corner to get around, but maybe an even harder one is through the heel, because going up the hill, Cowley had a big moment there.
Yeah, big moment there. It looks like he caught just a little bit of wheel spin off the back of the car, and that rear end wanted to step out on him. Good job to be able to hold that under control and keep things underneath him there. He's going to lose about 1/10 of a second here, maybe a little bit more up to Melorano, as that's going to be Mark Niestor coming down into pit lane. Now that is very early for scheduled service.
I've seen this before, though, out of Mark Nister. He's been known, at least from some of the races I've covered here in PCA, of severely undercutting and somehow making it work. I remember seeing it in Interlagos. Nister had undercut, and it seemed to pan out in his favor, but the 9 car will come in. Meanwhile, Leif Peterson charged by Logan Grotto. That could have been huge entering the inner loop. And remember, Chris Pies, one of the championship contenders, is in this trio at the back end of it. Has to be really careful to avoid contact.
Yeah, and it looked like they were coming through the outer loop, that downhill carousel that you talked about. I thought he was going to try to take a little bit of an advantage there, look for a little bit of a crossover move, but not quite able to get it to play. And he's going to be stuck behind here, behind Grotto, trying to see if he can get anything to go. Takes another little bit of a half-hearted look down into the toe, and that's not going to play out either. And now Chris Pies has got something else to worry about, and that's Justin Sang behind him, that red and white machine, as Justin looks like he could have a little bit of a good run here.
Yeah, this time Pies has company. Sang in car number 188 out of the Golden Gate region is catching up to what's going to make it a 4-car pack here from about P3 to P6. And Sang here off the front end of his Porsche 992, looking on the rear end of Chris Pye's number 14. And Sang looking for a better finish with this 992 car. Had some unfinished business back when we ran this car. The only other time in this Pro Class Series 10 season was back at Suzuka, race number 3. Sang came home in 14th. So Sang is going to look for a better response this time by from Watkins Glen. And it seems to be working out well for him. And only up 1 position since the start of the race, so rather stagnant there for Sang when you look on the rear bumper, and that's going to be dangerous for Pye if he continues to get held up by the 2 in front of him.
Yeah, very much so. He's going to have to be careful here at this point as they come up and over. He's going to be having to look out of that front windshield as well as in the rearview mirror behind him. So we'll have to see what they are able to do. Looks like he's got a little bit of breathing room here at this point as Grotto is able to actually close in on the back of Leif Peterson once again. Grotto really looking like he's got good runs coming out of the 90. That's where he appears very strong. And now they've got something a little bit interesting up in front of him. That sort of lime green machine that you see pulling off to the side, that's Thomas Briggs. That's a lapped car. That's going to put Grotto offline coming down through the chute.
Yeah, Briggs, one of those cars that got back onto the racetrack after that big incident right about here. And it looks like at that moment, Pike just had the door shut by Grotto going up to the toe. And they almost about made contact. And again, it was talking about how much these 2 in front would hold up the 14 car and bring in Justin Sang. It looks like this lap car in Thomas Briggs is making that endeavor much harder for car number 14. He is still not passed by the number 10 machine of Grotto, nor the 14, nor the 188, so things are really getting chaotic at this stage, going up the hill, back out of the boot, through the final corners, turns 11 and 12. We'll see what Thomas Briggs can do either to get out of the way or what these lead cars can do to get around them.
Yeah, exactly. I think here the move may be coming down into the 90, being a little bit aggressive. Let's see how Briggs takes it. That's a little bit of a wide run there for that number 11 machine. Looks like he's going to get off to the side there, let at least 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 on by. He indeed is going to let Sang on by, so the gentlemanly thing there to do for Thomas Briggs. Love to see that, although I've got to imagine here, if you are Logan Grotto, he's got to be a little bit frustrated that didn't come earlier in the lap.
Yeah, that's true, and that has really grown that gap between himself and Leif Peterson. It has severely expanded and almost a second between those 2 cars. So obviously, you're right, DJ. He would have loved to have that gap as closed as it was before they had that lap car interfere. But Briggs does the courteous thing, let the pack go, and he's going to try and run his own race. Chris Braun, the lead lap car behind him, but it is a little bit before he gets up to driver number 11. Here is Ryan Cowley. Outside move on Andy Jenks for the back straightaway. Will this be able to work hard on the brakes for both of them? But at that point, Cowley backs out, takes a dip through the grass, and that is a big moment there for Cowley. Had to hop over the curbing, and exactly what you had pointed out, DJ, earlier in our show. If you're that car on the inside, you're probably going to have a bit of trouble, or even on the outside, you could still have those circumstances not fall in your favor as Jenks closes in for what might be 12th on the line for him.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to make sure if you're going to go for those moves, you're going to be aggressive there through those corners. It has got to be high percentage. You cannot be dilly-dallying around there at those points. And so I think there for them, they're definitely going to learn a little bit of what to do and try to hold that a little bit together. Here comes another move, though, for the number 1. That's going to be Cowley and Jenks going side by side down into the heel of the boot. Let's see who comes out on the other side.
That was a better exit, though, for Cowley, and he's got the spot. Andy Jenks going to have to hold off on James Hughes in the number 18 car, and out of the boot seems to be advantage to car number 1. He's got the spot, but he's severely fallen off to Matthew Siddall there in the 4 car, 411, so he's really going to have his work cut out for him now. The only driver still to come down pit road is Mark Nistor in the 9. Looks like Nick Facciolo, who just came out of pit road not too long ago. He has recovered from his incident, but he is on the lead lap in P21. So that's good news for him. I believe Jacob Schum also just came down pit road. He has now put a lap down by the leaders. So it looks like those are the only ones really to have any type of service done to their car, apart from Facciolo, who had that big incident in the boot earlier on in this race. Still contentious at around 3rd on back. Leif Peterson not able to quite hold off the number 10 car of Grotto just yet.
No, not quite able to do it. Grotto has been able to close that gap back up. Remember, we saw that separate out a little bit more with Thomas Briggs being in the midst of that. The other thing here that's important, though, is that's the 14 of Chris Pies that has also been able to keep this nice and close in behind as they run. Oh, and that's a mistake there from Peterson.
And Peterson up the corner that I was talking about, the toe. That back end just stepped out and Peterson could not save it. Grotto and company do a fantastic job of getting around without adding any injury to Peterson's car. He did back out into the tire barrier, trying to reverse and get a better angle to get back out on track. But here's a look at it. And DJ, that's as simple as can be. That car did not hold on. It stepped out the rear end and around it went.
Yeah, just too much speed being brought down into that corner. We take another look at it here from on board with Chris Pies. You can see just tried to take a late apex there for Peterson. Didn't quite get it right, and splitting the difference there was Grotto and Pies just working their way on by. Very lucky drivers there that wasn't a bigger coming together.
How scary is that, DJ, as Pies there, where you're threading the needle to get around a spun car and you know that this can make or break your chance at a championship?
Oh, it's absolutely nerve-wracking. And I'll tell you something, when you are in that position, it's not like you're able to really practice for it and prepare for it and know what to do. You are flying by the seat of your pants. It is all gut instinct there at that point that leads you on through.
Just got word that Leif Peterson, after that spin, has taken his Porsche 992, the 913 car, on a pit road. It appears that there was another driver who came in just a lap before. That was the 18 of James Hughes. So we saw that 18 car in contention for some spots further around the mid-pack. Well, he has finally come in, so more drivers following in the case of Mark Nistor's attempt to come down very early. And by the time we are approaching halfway through the 60-minute feature from Watkins Glen, more and more drivers are starting to get picked off by pit strategy. Here's Pies, closer look on Logan Grotto for third.
Yeah, and this is going to be big here for Pies. Remember, we talked about the draft train starting to form. Well, now it's going to be Grotto that's breaking the air in front of him. So it's just going to be Chris Pies here in this little battle that's getting the benefit of that draft. So that could give him a little bit of an advantage, maybe try to pull him up the road a little bit more. Let's keep our eyes here. I think particularly coming out of the 90, we'll start to get an idea of just what kind of straight line speed Chris Pies has. Now, it's also crucial here to remember, this is a fixed setup in this series, so it's not like he's able to trim out the car and run better. It's just all about maximizing that draft and maximizing the run out of turn one.
And all about driver style here at Watkins Glen, entering the 90, turn one. It appears decent corner by both. It doesn't look like the 14 has that much of an upper hand, and Grotto doing a nice job of holding on through the S's, but we'll just see what that 14 can cook up on the back straightaway, heading for the inner loop. He's got a nice run off on the final S. We'll try and get closer to that 10 car before they get to the corner, but it might not be enough, and Pies will have to hold on to his spot for now and maybe target the next couple of corners. Jake Faulkner on for pit road, the car number 5 falling back to 17th, and now in question, we'll turn back to this 14 car, what he can do on strategy. We haven't seen him gain that much track position. He's been sort of plateaued where he's at. He's only gained a spot because Leif Peterson went for a mistake entering the toe. How alternate can he get on a pit strategy to maybe take advantage of Jesse Lyon, who has pulled away by a lot?
Well, based off of everything that I've seen there, as we see Joe Stiffel not really able to get the move that he would like to done there on Daniel Rubel, based off of everything that I have seen here and everything that I've run at Watkins Glen, I think the best option here for Chris Pies is to hold back. Is to just wait and try to go as long as possible into this stint. I have not seen the efficacy here of the undercut coming to play, and indeed it's been the overcut that's really been the strong hand here when PCA has brought these 992s out to play. And so I think that's the option here for Chris Pies.
Well, we'll see if he employs it, though. As you watch Stiffel here working on Daniel Rubel, that pass attempted for 15th. And Dale Green, James Franznik in a battle of their own for P13 on the grid. Franznik coming from dead last in the field, 23rd up to 14th. So up those 9 spots since the drop of the green make him the largest mover of the race. And I think I'm going to take a personal bias to this scheme. It's not necessarily complicated, but the colors are perfect. the pink, the blue, the black that screams Miami Vice, and Franzik, I believe, is pulling off to the right. Yes, he is. He's coming for pit road this lap.
All right, so we've got a lot of drivers here that are trying for some alternate strategies, not what we saw yesterday play out, and I like this. I like these drivers just trying to think things out a little bit, saying, you know what, this isn't exactly working for me the way that it's running right now. I might as well dive down into pit lane and see if that can play out, and so we're going to see how this does. Now, the biggest problem here is they're obviously going to find themselves a lap down here at this point, and that's not what they want to have happen, but with the guarantee that we're pretty much not going to see a full course yellow here, they're not going to be trapped a lap down. They'll be able to get that lap back when we assume Rafael Amorim comes back down into pit lane.
That's a great point, and you also got to consider for the guys that are going to do the overcut where they're going to merge back out on the track, because in Hockenheimring, it didn't feel like the overcut and the undercut were very severe. You didn't see a lot of passes for position. We didn't see much of that change the complexity of the race, but maybe here at Watkins Glen, that could be the difference with the way this track is built, and we may just see with the gaps that we've seen grown so far, how that may also play a factor into who comes out first and whether the leaders will stay put where they are. And here coming out of turn 12, Pice now hunting on Logan Grotto. That's a great move out of the final corner, so possibly has a chance for the 90 DJ. Another test here for Pice to see if he's got a move here on Grotto going up to the back straightaway.
Yeah, we'll see if he's able to do it. The gap here holding at about 3.5 tenths of a second as they work their way out of the 90. Now that draft is going to come into play here for Chris Pies, but again, patience is a virtue here for him. If he's able to stick behind here, maybe lift off the throttle a little bit, let's take a listen. Let's see what he decides to do. Little bit early there on the brakes, obviously braking in response to Grotto in front of him, so that is going to change his braking zone. Not a massive lift and coast there from Pies, but definitely probably saving a little bit, and just those little fractions can add up to a whole lot by the time pit stops roll around.
And you heard that the lift off the throttle just before they got into the corner where he just wanted to smoothly get that braking zone dialed in. And this is the advantage that Pies has for the moment, because he's got draft on Grotto. Jesse Lyon, on the other hand, has lost touch of your race leader. If you've been watching the left side of your screen, that telemetry has told you that Lyon has dropped off of P1 Rafael Amorim by the tune of 2.1 seconds, and it has stagnated since then, while Lyon has put in a faster lap when the last time they crossed the start-finish line happened, but Lyon hasn't really been able to fully catch up to that 16 car. So while Pice can probably save some extra fuel and have a better chance at overcutting on a strategy, Lyon is stuck on an island all by himself. He can't draft with nobody since Amorim continues to pull away.
Yeah, exactly, and that could give a little bit of an advantage here. Now, I don't think at this point that the likes of Grotto or Pies are going to be able to make up for that. It's 7.5 seconds there in between the two. Well, let's go back to this battle in the mid-pack here. Sedome, Laurano, Cowley, these three drivers still just absolutely all over each other.
They have been at it since the drop of the green, and that's a gorgeous exit out of turn 12 for the Dunkin' Donuts machine. Gonna try and take it to the bottom on the number 4 car. He's got the inside. Can he take advantage? Yes, he can. The Dunkin' Donuts car moves up to 8th, and how about Ryan Cowley? Almost went for a pass by himself on Siddle there after turn 1. They're gonna pack in 3 cars deep going into the S's and almost contact.
Oh, they're almost bump drafting here, coming down the back stretches. There's going to be a poke out for Cowley, trying to see if he's able to get anything almost onto the grass there, going around Melorano. Sidal is going to be the one there. Now Cowley going to try to take advantage as they work their way through the inner loop. They're going to come in the exact same way they came out, and look what all that battling is done here at this point. Andy Jenks, welcome to the battle.
And Cowley almost officially turned Siddle on the back straightaway. That could have been close, and took the 4 car for a dive to the grass and almost gets into him at the entrance of the boot. Again, another close call. Siddle takes the grass off the exit of the corner. Here comes Andy Jenks, like you said, DJ. The challenge here this time for 10th. Jenks is going to back out here, look for a crossover and a better exit out of the toe, the boot. And we'll look for the heel next time by, going up the hill and cresting it. And then going back down here just for the entrance into this corner braking zone. Melorano can breathe a little easier like for Breeze. He's got a bit of a gap here to Cowley this time for 8th.
Yeah, he's going to be able to hold on to that. Little bit of an aggressive input there coming down through the heel for Jenks. You saw him really have to kind of jerk the steering wheel over to the right. That's going to put a little extra strain on those tires. Not necessarily what he wants to do. That's going to blunt his momentum ever so slightly. That's why you see a little bit of a gap starting to develop here up as they run. Now it looks like Jenks is going to come down into pit lane.
So Jenks now going to become one of the most recent cars to head in for service, and I was about to say that Daniel Rubel would have taken that command as the most recent driver to come in, but it appears that's not the case. 12 car is in. Thomas Briggs also coming in for a secondary pit stop. The driver one lap down in 23rd, and we look on board once again with Justin Tseng. Remember that battle between Chris Price and Logan Grotto? Well, it is not quite done yet. Tseng has been just waiting in the wings, just waiting for something to happen at a front row seat. So far, no fireworks for the moment. And that 188 car is just going to hold on and fit. Tseng came home in the top 3 spot at Hockenheimring. We talked to him a couple of weeks ago at the end of that Pro Class race. And Tseng really has been consistent in the standings. And if you speak of it, behind Price and Lyon, who are 1 point away from each other in the standings, Tseng is hanging out in 3rd. But he's got a battle for that spot as well in the points to Rafael Amorim, who's leading this race.
Yeah, and he's going to keep on doing it here at this point as they go. He's doing a good job of just keeping everything together, keeping everything contained. Certainly doing a fantastic job to just be able to hold on to the back here. It's about a second back as they run, so he's got a little bit of room to make up. Still plenty to try to go here. Only about a second, as we said, but he's got Chris Braun coming up behind him, so he can't be too cautious in all of this. Yeah, that's true. You don't really want to be complacent, and Chris Braun has been hanging around that P6 spot, it appears, all race long. This light, I'd say mint green, and number 258, the driver out of the Northeast region, just trying to close in on that 188 car. He started in 8th tonight and has moved his way up to 6th, and he's got a very big gap to 13.5 seconds back to Enrico Gregorato. So no worries for this 258 car, and it's a really interesting position because you don't have any pressure behind you. You've got a car in front of you. So how does that mentally challenge you as a driver, DJ? Well, really what you've got to do if you're in Justin Tseng's position is not look behind you. You cannot pay attention to what that car is doing behind you. You have got to keep focused on the road ahead and not let anything distract you from hitting your apexes to trying to close down that gap. If you start to look behind you, you're going to find yourself into a little bit of trouble.
See what Braun and Tseng can do in this battle. So far, the gap still maintaining and around where it sits. As here's another driver on for pit road. Dale Green is one of them who's in. Matthew Siddle on the 4 car. Remember his battle at around the top 15. He has finally come in, and mind you, Mark Nister in the 9 car, who had the earliest call to pit road out of anyone who was running that did not have an incident tonight. He's now up to 13th. So Nister with this undercut to be working just a little bit, but probably not in the way he would have imagined to, that will pay big dividends as we'll ride on board with Jesse Line in the 115. Looks like he is slowly reeling back your leader, but Amorim's on an early call. He's going to come in.
All right, so we're starting to see some divergence here amongst our leaders on what they're going to do in terms of a pit stop. I like this call here from Amorim coming down into pit lane at this point. Just try to see if that can maybe be the way to work your way by.
It's rather peculiar. We didn't see him go for an overcut, but nonetheless, he comes in. Jesse Lyon handed the race lead by 9.3 seconds back to this car right here. Logan Grotto and then Chris Price behind him. Justin Tseng far off in the distance. Will play no factor into that battle, but possibly under fire and getting that rear view mirror filled up down the back straightaway. Braun with a nice run out of the uphill S's section. Dive for the brakes, heading for the inner loop, but no full progress by any of those drivers. So Amorim with an early stop. We'll see how he dials in. He is still 27 seconds on the pit stop. He will go, and he's got the first pit box, so he's going to come out behind Joe Steifel in 10th place. Looks like Steifel's right about here, making this pass done through the S's. Well, this will be for 11th, so Amorim with a pretty big deficit. But remember, all these guys have to come in. It's just a matter of distance that will play the biggest factor here, DJ.
Yeah, that's really the biggest thing here that he's got to worry about. And now that he's able to get on by Stiffle, that's going to be huge. He doesn't want to be held behind him. He doesn't want to have him in front of him because that would just slow him down a little bit. Not be the way to go there for him. Chris Pye's continuing to work behind here, continuing to try to see if he's able to get anything to play. I think he's still in fuel conservation mode. Doesn't want to push too hard at this point, and he's just going to keep it on.
Well, here comes Jesse Lyon for pit road, your race leader, coming in about a lap after Amarim does. Does Grotto pull the trigger? Yes, he does. Pines will stay out, and this might just be the only call to take it for that 14. You want to lead some laps. You want to be up front. Lyon and Grotto are in. We'll see if anybody else follows in their footsteps. We'll watch for some others. Gregorado coming off for the final corner. So is Nick Melorano. Gregorado will pull off to the right. He'll hop on the brakes and come in. Dunkin' Donuts car of Melorano will stay out. So mostly a split decision. But here's Lyon. We'll see how fast he comes out of the box. And here's Amarim in comparison, turn 11.
All right, Amarim should be out relatively okay. Remember, that was about a 2-second gap or so in between the two of them as they came down into pit lane. Now let's see here, Amarim coming back out. Looks like Lyon is back out. Did Lyon jump him?
Yeah, and a way faster stop too. You talked about saving fuel, DJ. It pans out in his favor. 13.2 seconds. That is a monstrous advantage on time in the box compared to Amarim's 27 flat. Lyon jumps the leader in the 14 car and will most likely have control of the lead. We'll see just how everybody cycles through, but Amarim at a big disadvantage off of pit road.
Now, here is the one caveat to that I will give. I think Amarim took tires. I'll have to go back on my screen and take a look at the replay, but that's my sneaking suspicion here, is that I think Raphael Amarim may have taken tires, and that is what put him on a longer stop. Now, if that's the case, that's going to allow for Raphael to push like mad here at this point and maybe be able to close up this gap before the race is done. But we'll have to see.
Oh yeah, you're right, DJ. I was looking back at both of their stops. The biggest thing of note, the jacks lifted up for Amarim. It did not for Lyon. You hit it right on the head. Fuel only for driver 115. And here's a duo coming in. Remember, Sang and Braun, and possibly brawling for their spot respectively. Well, they're both going to come in double-handedly. I was going to say single-handedly, but two cars in that group. Melorano back and forth. He's also going to peel off onto pit road, so Lyon will have the chance to gain some more spots. But Amarim is really the interesting part about this entire strategy, because with these tires, how much of an advantage is that going to play out? Is he going to gain that much time? Is it going to be enough time to catch up to your leaders and make something significant happen for the win? Such a big question mark, but he's going to get by Melorano. He's going to get by Sang and Braun. Line up by a long shot, and Logan Grotto seems to be the biggest driver in the middle of all this in P3.
Yeah, he's going to be a little bit caught there, but again, 10 seconds behind right now as he runs to Jesse Lyon. Man, Amarim really far back down through the field. He's at risk here of frankly losing a podium position based off of this on just how long of a stop that was. I think the win is going to be in massive question here. I think the podium could be in question.
Yeah, points are really going to come in a deficit for him if things don't fall in that way. Make that the third slowest pit stop that we've seen tonight from Watkins Glen. If you count out Thomas Briggs and the number 717 and Nick Facciolo, those drivers who had those incidents had to come in for pit road service to repair their cars. His 27 flat is the third slowest. James Francis in a 27.2 beats him, and so does Joe Stiefel at a 27.6. So these drivers took tires, but the biggest thing as well is that everybody in front of Amarim only took fuel. 12.5 seconds for Chris Braun, 13.2 for Lyon, 13.4 for Grotto, and here's Chris Pye's finally coming in. We'll see where Lyon comes out in all this, but the 14 finally in for service.
All right, that's going to bring him on here at this point. I think Lyon will pretty easily be able to get by him. That real question here is going to be where he comes out in position in regards to the other podium spots. As indeed, Lyon's going to breeze on by. Now, I would expect here for Pies to have probably around an 11 or 12-second pit stop if he was able to save enough fuel. And indeed, I look like a genius, 11.3.
Man, you've been on it tonight. You've been calling everything correctly. 11.1 for Pies. That was really quick, and while that's not enough to get fully close to Jesse Lyon for the lead, that is going to be enough to keep him in second. So that is as close as you can get without officially taking the lead away. Amram on the back foot here. He's behind Chris Braun in a battle for fourth.
Yeah, battle for fourth here, and remember, Amarim on fresh rubber, so he should be able to extract the most grip out of this. Looks like that's going to be a defensive line there for Chris Braun coming down into the corner. He's going to try to defend that inside line into the inner loop, and defend it well he did.
Amram's gonna stay put. Braun is fighting hard to hold on to that fourth place position as this field is really thinned out. Closest battle apart from these guys in this top five, remarkably, is for second. Pius is only 1.8 seconds ahead of Logan Grotto, so we might watch that as it develops. But Amarim is really struggling to breeze by this 258 car, and with 13 minutes left in this race from Watkins Glen, the situation for the 16 is ultimately getting more grim by the passing lap at Hockenheimring. We saw Amarim really struggle. The Peach State region driver dropped back to 17th with incidents of his own in Germany and tried to pick it up by dominating the first half here at Watkins Glen. And it looks like with that 27-second pit stop, this race just turned on its head for him in the wrong way.
Yeah, really and truly did here, and I think that may have just been a little bit of a strategy miscall. When we talked to a couple of drivers after the race yesterday, we heard that some of them took tires and were able to make it on a great strategy, and I thought that may be kind of the leading mentality here coming into this race. Clearly I was wrong, and clearly Rafael Amarim was wrong. He's going to be lucky here if he's going to be able to get by Chris Braun here with only about 12 minutes left to go, and I think, 3.5 seconds up the road there to Logan Grotto, that's going to be a tough ask here with only about a quarter of this race left to go.
And 14 seconds back to your leader. It is looking almost impossible for that 16 car. He's got a good run off of the 90, turn one through the S's. He'll take the outside approach on the back straightaway, heading for the inner loop. Does Braun back out? No, he doesn't. Side by side. Now he finally takes himself out of the fight. So Amarim takes the spot for P4, and he's got 3.5 seconds ahead of him if he wants to catch up to Grotto, but he immensely breaks through on that one.
Yeah, very good move. Very decisive there for Rafael Amarim, and that's exactly what he needed to do. We check back farther in the field here. That battle between Malorano and Cowley continuing to spice up here as the race goes along.
And this one has gotten physical, DJ. We saw them bang doors almost on the back straightaway. The Dunkin' Donuts machine is having none of the servings right now. Cowley has been right there at him. This is one of the closest battles we're seeing off of pit road, apart from that 4th and 5th place tussle. And maybe bring a third car in this as well, because James Huth in the 18, also a driver who came in rather early, around 12 laps ago, he's here too, so don't count him out either.
No, he could certainly pick up the pieces if something were to go wrong here. So James clearly in a good position, clearly driving a good race here and just trying to hold on as much as possible. I like that strategy here for James. Don't try to throw it away, but just see what you can maybe eke out.
And if they go side by side, they're only going to scrub off more time, and Huth is just going to have 2 free real estate positions on tap to put himself in the top 10. Leave Peterson looking onwards to the car in front of him. That is Justin Sang in the number 188. Remember, Peterson had that big spin in the toe earlier in this race, has picked back up with his undercut strategy. He's on the same strategy, by the way, as that 18th of James Huth came down around 12 laps ago. Peterson doing a great job on recovery here, and the speed really hasn't picked off either. A 147.7 for car number 913 compared to Sang's 147.955. So Peterson has picked up the pace. He'll look for the outside and a dart for the inner loop.
He's going to try to sweep around the outside here as Sang, but Sang is going to be able to defend that inside there well. And yeah, I've got to agree with you. A recovery of a top 10 here following that spin really and truly goes to show you what kind of driver Leif Peterson is. It's one of the hardest things in the world to do, Kenneth. When you're behind the wheel of the car, you make a big error like that. Being able to continue on, and not only continue on, but continue battling like we're seeing him here do at this point, that's a real testament here to Leif.
It's a relentless mentality, and it makes it more impressive in the case of his incident, because it wasn't like he got hit by anyone. It wasn't like it was a situation that wasn't his fault, that he had no control over. It was a mistake of his own. As a driver, it can be really easy to kind of beat yourself up about a mistake and then just kind of mope around for the rest of the race. But Peterson, to keep his head in this fight, to change his strategy based on what happened to him, and then pick up the way that he has, it has been really impressive to watch him work his way up through the field. And now, with a chance at what might be his second straight top 7 finish in the last 2 races, or maybe a position even better if he can break through Justin Sang's defense. And they've got Chris Braun in front of them, but by a little bit of a margin, so they won't catch him by the end of this race. But here's on board with Jacob Schum, 22nd a lap down, but he's got a nice rear view look at this battle for position.
Yeah, he's going to be having a good battle of it, and he's going to have to be conscious of it. He doesn't want to get in the way of this, and rest assured, he'll be getting those blue flag messages from the iRacing service as they are. That's just going to be a little informational here for him, just to make him aware of when they're coming up strong. I wouldn't be surprised here with the run that we're seeing Justin Sang have. Yeah, he's going to hold on down to the inside line. He's going to lift off the throttle there. Great sportsmanship from Jacob Schum.
And Jacob Schum just came over the radio, and I believe that was what the message was about, letting these drivers by and just saying, hey, I'm going to find the right place, right time to let you two through. I won't fight you too hard on it. As speaking of fighting, 9th place is not quite done yet for the fight. Cowley with a big sand to the rear end of the Dunkin' Donuts Melorano machine. It is getting insanely physical here through the carousel. Cowley with a dart back to the inside. James Hughes with a front row popcorn seat as they're side by side through the booth.
And look at the back of Melorano's car. I didn't notice that till now. There's damage on the back of that Dunkin' Donuts machine as he's going to force Cowley there to the outside, but Cowley's still going to hold the line. Coming down into the toe, tries to pinch Melorano to the outside. Melorano says, I can do that right back, as they still go side by side. And I think Cowley's just about got the move done.
Neither of them have given up, and they are really scrapping for every last point they can get in the last 5 or so laps and 7 minutes here from Watkins Glen. A bit of a slide by Melorano through the heel, and that will break through for Cowley. He gets in a 9th. Hughes still not yet with a pass made on either of these two. We'll see, though, if Melorano can respond. You made that point big there, DJ. The back-end damage on Melorano's car. Boy, he got a shot to the rear end entering the inner loop. Was not expecting Cowley to back off and try to get the exit off of the corner in the momentum, but he did. He had nowhere else to go with it and just slammed into the back of the 117.
Yeah, and let's not forget here just how crucial the rear ends here are on these Porsche Cup cars. That is not only where the engine is, but it's also the diffuser on the back of the car. A lot of downforce is generated from that back half of the car. So if there's damage there, that's not only going to be potentially affecting his straight line speed, but it could be affecting how he runs through the corner as well.
And Melorano 19th in the standings, and he's been looking for a pickup in these last 2 events here from Watkins Glen and what's going to be Sebring, the last race of this Pro Class Series 10 season. Melorano, though, is going to get back at this #1 car. He is still there, hounding the rear view mirror, and this fight isn't over yet, man. It looks like as soon as one car goes by or holds on, it feels like it might be over and they might just separate. But these two have been so equal on pace, you can never take either of them out of the fight. Melorano using every inch of the curbing going into the boot.
Yeah, he is really trying to drive the wheels off of that machine as much as possible. You're going to see him use a little bit of that curbing down on the inside. That's going to throw him offline just a little bit. You don't actually want to run on the curbing on exit like that. You do want to pick it up a little bit in corner entry to mid-corner, just help that Porsche rotate a little bit more, but not going to play well there for him. And their higher speed corner, I think we're starting to see a little bit of that diffuser damage coming to play as he runs wide there coming out of the heel.
Yeah, those poor set of corners grew that gap to Cowley. It's not by much, but it could be the difference maker in the last 5 or so minutes as another fight develops on the racetrack. Remember, Leif Peterson, he's still on the back bumper of Justin Sang, and boy, has this one not ended either. And Peterson really did get close in the back straightaway. It might get closer here. He's got to run, but he's hit the Arco barrier going up the second S.
And that's not only going to blunt his momentum, that could damage the car there a little bit. And indeed, look, that run, that it looked like it was almost a surefire thing. He's got to back it off there. I'm not sure how much damage he's got on the right-hand side of the car, but that's on one of the highest speed portions of the track, and that is not going to be helpful there for him.
And that might have been the first time, DJ, that we've seen a car do that going into the S's all night long. Most of these drivers have been pretty decent with entering the S's and getting out of trouble through there. But if you're carrying so much speed and at some point where you're in that second S, you're turning left, that right front is going to start to scream when you're carrying so much momentum, and that car is inevitably going to go into the barrier. Peterson, again, trying to get every last bit of an advantage he can in these last couple of laps before it's all said and done. Meanwhile, Jesse Lyon has enjoyed the embrace of a 7.3 second lead over Chris Pice. Remember, the pressure by Rafael Amorim gone with the way the pit stop went for him. He is a total of 12.7 seconds back to this man right here. Lyon only looking to extend his championship gain going into the final race at Sebring.
Yeah, it's going to really set it on up here at this point. As we jump back on board with Leif Peterson. Peterson going to trying to keep that pressure up to the back here of Justin Sang. Despite that little bit of contact that we saw from him, he does not want to let anything go.
Sang third in the standings. Leif Peterson further back in 15th, but the Maverick Region driver is looking to step into the top 6. You know, might be on point. Like I said, 7th place finishes for 2 straight races for Peterson. Came home in that exact same spot in Germany at the Hockenheim Ring. And this is a good exit finally for Peterson. Sang falling back and almost hitting the barrier going into the S's. Here comes Peterson with a move on the outside.
He's going to try to sweep that momentum here going down into the corner. Sang to hold off on the inside. Peterson later on the brakes going to get a nose ahead. Can he hold it? Yes, he can. Persistence paying off for Leif Peterson.
What a move by Peterson, and made it clean. Did not roughen up Sang in any corner at all, and finds his way up to P6. We did get word from race control. Jake Faulkner with a black flag for incident. He's going to drop back to 19th and counting as he hits pit road. So a tough break for him, and around the 2.5-minute mark left to go in this race. Amorim is still closing in on Logan Grotto, so this might be something to work forward to, DJ, in the last minute and a half or so. When we cross the start-finish line, this is an opportunity to get back onto the podium. Maybe the win is not intact for possibility, but a third place is, as there's Lyon coming back to what may be 2 laps to go from Watkins Glen.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Lap times being put in at about 1:48. He crossed over the line with about 1:54 or so to go. So 2 laps to go here for him. But yeah, I'm going to be keeping my eye here on this battle between Grotto and Amorim. It's down to 1 second as Grotto was able to take 3/10 out on that last lap. And now that he's got it down to 1 second, that's going to be crucial. That means he's going to get a little bit of hint of the draft here coming up the long back straightaway.
He sliced up the gap. We'll see if he's got anything for that number 10 machine. Cowley has gone his way with Melorano, but Melorano struck back, and while we were away, he got that pass completed for Knight. So Melorano has not given up, and this 3-car train stays wrapped up in at least a half a second going back to the 90 turn 1 with a minute left.
All right, here they go. This battle continuing on. Cowley looked like he got a pretty good run by taking that corner a little bit wide, but he may have actually carried a little bit too much speed down through there at this point. He's going to try to do what he can here, though, as they climb up the hill through the S's. He's going to be side by side here as they come down into the inner loop contact.
They touch on the back straightaway, going into the inner loop, side by side, and make contact again. Cowley gets roughened up entering the corner, and Melorano holds fort for now. But can he stay there for much longer? Entering the carousel for the boot, a bit of a mistake and a wobble by Cowley. He cannot make any ground on Melorano's 117. Into the boot for what might be the final time here from Watkins Glen. He's got a good run going up the hill through the toe. Does he have the inside? He'll force his way down there.
He's going to force that in. That's going to force Melorano to run a little bit wide as the white flag waves in the air for Jesse Lyon, and Cowley's finally got the move done.
And here's James Hughes. Can he make a move on his own self? He's been staying at the back of this three-car train forever. Now he's got to move, entering the heel on the outside of Melorano, and that will make things a little easier for Cowley. White flag, like you said, DJ, for the number 115. Just one more clean lap, and James Hughes finds his way to 10th after starting 14th.
Very, very impressive stuff there for James Hughes to be able to gain that many positions. Now, the question's going to be here is if Melorano is able to fight back whatsoever, he's going to get that benefit of the double draft here coming down the back straightaway. Let's see if he can get anything to play, but let's not forget that 117 is that car with the rear end damage that we've been talking about.
And he is off the pace when they cross the line by almost a second. Cowley at a 151. James Hughes with 150.222. Melorano at a 151 flat. So Melorano falling off the pace here. We'll see if he's got anything for these two cars or whether even the 18 has something for the one. But the eyes flicker to Jesse Lyon in the 115, who has dominated the second half of this race. He was on a tear through the strategy, made use of getting by Amram with his 27-second stop. Into the final two corners, Jesse Lyon will once again enjoy a race win in the Series 10 Pro Class for PCA Sim Racing. Came home in second the last time we raced the Pro Class back at Hockenheim Ring. Had a 1-point advantage into the championship standings, but he's got full control of it now. Out of turn 12, Jesse Lyon wins from Watkins Glen.
A great run here for Jesse, and exactly when he needed it. Chris Pies just a little bit short here, but a great pit strategy going to bring him back around and hold on to P2, as it looks like there Logan Grotto barely able to hold off Rafael Amram. I think one more lap would have done it there for Rafael.
Yeah, more distance there. Could have helped that 16 car get into the podium. He misses it by one spot. Here's Justin Sang, who finally crosses the line, and he'll go around to the inside wall. He lost that fight to Peterson, and then here is the big group we've been talking about for a while. It has really built up in car number, but Ryan Cowley will hold on and get his way to finish ninth. James Hughes with a great run. He finishes inside the top 10. Melorano just falls a little bit short. And here is Andy Jenks. Looks like him and Nick Facciolo going at it for P15.
Yeah, they're going to go on by there. Jenks going to be able to get that move done on Facciolo. Facciolo going very slowly. I wonder if he maybe miscalculated fuel or something there, as it looks like he is slowing down. James Franzek may even be able to get a move done here on him as he comes out of the final corner. Yeah, something is clearly wrong there with Facciolo. Not entirely sure what that is.
He'll drop back to 17th, and will he give up another spot? No, he won't. So 17th is where the 717 car will finish. Matthew Siddle with a great start to this race, but it really did not pan out in the way he would have wanted to near the end. The Lone Star Region driver will come up behind Joe Seifel in the 003, and will finish in 19th. Jesse Lyon wins this race from upstate New York, Watkins Glen. We'll take a short break, but you won't miss a thing. We'll cover more of the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 Pro Class live on Podium Esports.
A little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way.
If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. At the Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guests' lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange.
Welcome back to Watkins Glen. 1 hour in the books for the penultimate race of the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 Pro Class, and the race will go to Jesse Lyon in the 115, who takes home this race by 7.8 seconds. Lyon had a 1-point advantage in the championship going into tonight's event. Looks like he might have the better hand going into the final race at Sebring in just a couple of weeks. Chris Pius, the contender for the championship behind Lyon, comes home in second, which should give him still a mathematical shot at winning the championship. Logan Grotto will finish in the podium, so we'll talk to all three of them before we wrap up our coverage tonight. Rafael Amorim was the leader of this race for so long. The driver who led this race from the pole, unfortunately, had a 27-second stop, put tires on the car, put him on the back foot for the rest of it. Still comes home in P4. Chris Braun with a nice effort. After starting in 8th, he finishes P5. Leif Peterson with a great move on Justin Sang near the end, grab for 6th. Justin Sang comes home in 7th. Enrico Gregorato in a league of his own near the end. He finishes in 8th. Ryan Cowley, James Hughes, Nick Melorano. Can we talk about this battle a little more? Because, boy, was it a lot of fun to watch. Cowley wins the tussle, though, after all, in 9th, Hughes in 10th, Melorano in 11th.
Yeah, Melorano finishing in 11th there from that battle. Then it was Patty Patterson, who we didn't get a whole lot of a chance to cover here in the race. Dale Green behind Tim. Mark Neistar able to come home in P14. Then Andy Jenks, we were able to see get those passes done on the last couple of runs there as they went. James Franznik also able to get those moves done on Nick Fagiolo. Not sure exactly what happened to Nick, but he fell down 2 positions right at the checkered flag. Then it was Joe Stiefel in 18, Matthew Siddall in 19, and Jake Faulkner, your first driver, 1 lap down.
Jacob Schum in the number 56 car is the one who comes home in 21st. 22nd will go to Thomas Briggs, who got involved in an incident earlier on in tonight's event. And Daniel Rubel in the number 6 car is 2 laps down, 23rd to close out our field from Watkins Glen, New York. We'll head over to Victory Circle, where we are joined by still championship points leader Jesse Lyon in the 115. Jesse, I have to imagine, I mean, you talked about it around last week, or even before that, on May 26th in the Discord, you said Watkins gonna be fun. I can imagine it feels a lot more fun with the way this race panned out for you, no?
Yeah, no, it was a lot more fun. I put in a lot of time to figure out the tire wear because we knew that after like the first practice session, we found out that the tires were gonna go if you push the car too hard. So I was really pumped to try and keep up with Raph, but I had to save some tires, so just let him run away in the first half.
Well, nonetheless, it all comes back full circle, because once you cycle out, you cycled out in front. Did that come as a surprise to you that things were going to end up that way, or were you expecting Rafael Amorim to just stay out in front and then you have to work hard to gain that position in the second run?
I would have been surprised if Raf came out ahead of me, but I knew that he had a high chance of taking tires because he was doing some really, really quick laps. But I was up for anything. My main competitor was Chris Pies, so even if Raf got first place, I would have been all right. I just wanted to make sure I came out ahead of Chris for whatever reason.
Well, you did. You got the win. I'm sure that really gives you a lot of assurance as we head over to Sebring. Final race of the Pro Class Series 10 season. You and Chris Pius, I believe, still mathematically eligible to go after it for the championship. What are your thoughts about that last race, and how do you feel that's going to pan out for you in the RSR?
It gives me a little more headroom. You know, I can finish, depending on qualifying, I can finish right behind Pies and still get the win, so I have a little bit more breathing room rather than just being 1 point in the lead. But I was one of the advocates to try and get the RSR picked for this next race, because it's the last year that GTE and the RSR is going to see real racing. So I think it'll be a good way to send off the RSR, one of the best sounding Porsches in existence.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that 100% wholeheartedly. You said it there. Send off. That's the word that came to my mind first when you mentioned the RSR and you were talking about it. Hopefully you can send this off with a championship in hand at the end of the pro class. Jesse, we certainly appreciate all of the time. We congratulate you on the win here from Watkins Glen, and we'll see you at Sebring in a couple of weeks.
Yep. Thank you. See you guys then.
Jesse Line in the 115 wins here from Watkins Glen and holds on to a 7.8 second lead that ultimately goes second to Chris Pice, who's joined by DJ Clark.
Well, Chris, looked like you were kind of bottled up there in the beginning of the race, but I got to give you credit. A brilliant pit strategy, able to jump you up into P2.
Yeah, I definitely caught traffic early on. I wanted to try to make a little bit more moves so I get some clean air, but I realized it was going to be really difficult to get around Logan and also get around Leaf just on pace alone. So at that point, I just went into fuel save strategy and sipped the fuel for the first stint. Save fuel, save tires, and hopefully would be able to overcut them, which it worked, and then go out and put some bangers there at the end and try to run down whoever the leader was at the time.
Well, you certainly were able to do that. I've got to ask you, though, speaking of Leaf, kind of a scary moment going down into the toe. Talk me through that. Leaf spinning in front of you and Logan just kind of splitting the difference.
Yeah, that one was very uncharacteristic of Leaf. But I saw when his car started yawing, I was like, he's gonna either be really slow or he's gonna spin. And to Leaf's credit, he did the right thing. He put his foot on the brake, and he was able to be predictable and slide in a straight line. Yeah, no, it was definitely a bit of a pucker moment. And unfortunately, I think it cost us the draft or a few seconds on the leaders. And so at that point, it was just Logan and I running together and trying to maximize our time.
Well, you certainly were able to maximize with that pit strategy, like we said. As we come down into this last round at Sebring, driving the RSR, what's the pressure going to be like? You pretty much need to win this thing to be able to claim this championship. How are you feeling about it?
I feel confident. We'll see what happens. I like the RSR a lot. It's a fantastic car. We haven't run it in a long time in the league, and I love Sebring. So car and track combo, I couldn't ask for a better situation going in terms of my own personal skill. So I'm looking forward to it. Feeling pretty confident. We'll see what I got to do. The way I look at it is I'm chasing, so I got nothing to lose. Hopefully the guy at the top falters a little bit, and we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens indeed. Very much looking forward to it myself. But as for today, second place, who makes this possible?
Oh, everybody in the steering committee, and especially Doug, you put on a great show. This league has been fantastic. Been here since the beginning, and it's an absolute pleasure and frankly an honor to be a part of it. And then also you guys, you've been fantastic with the broadcast. You've been there since day one. We couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you so much for putting on a good show.
We're more than happy to do it, especially when you guys put on a race like that. That was Chris Pies, your second place finisher here today. And now, Kenneth, I believe you've been able to catch up with P3, Mr. Logan Grotto.
Yes, sir. I'm here with Logan Grotto, driver of the 10 car. And Logan, best finish of the season. Top 3 here from Watkins Glen. I imagine you had to wrestle a bit for it. You, Leif Peterson, and Chris Pies all in a group together. What was that like out on track tonight?
Oh man, it was very stressful. I've spent my entire career at PCA looking up to these guys, and it just feels so amazing to even be on the same part of the track as them. So a little starstruck, but just tried to stay cool, and things worked out.
And talk us through that last little stint. You and Rafa Amarim close to each other at around a second. Were you starting to feel the pressure a little bit from that 16, or you had that confidence you were going to hold on to it? I mean, your car was really fast tonight.
I am still feeling the pressure. He was faster than I was, and he was catching up every single lap. I locked up a little bit in the toe, and he was within a second, and I was just like, "Give me the white flag." Managed to hold on to it, but he had more pace than me, but just had enough a gap to keep it.
Well, you held on to it. You kept that relentless fight in it. And for your car to finish in P3 tonight from Watkins Glen, and as we head over into the RSR race for Sebring, the last one of this pro class, what are your thoughts now? And how is the momentum and the good feelings going into that one?
Oh, I'm really looking forward to the RSR. It's one of my favorite cars, and I don't think I've ever actually done an official race in it. So I'm really looking forward to that. As far as momentum goes, I've had to miss too many races for this season to really be a strong contender, but really just hoping to get a top 10 again. So that's my goal.
Well, the podium works here at Watkins Glen, and you have a fantastic finish. You're really fast all night long, and I got to give it to your consistency. A great race put on here in upstate New York. Logan, on behalf of our entire broadcast crew, thank you for the time. Congratulations on the podium finish, and looking forward to seeing you take Sebring with the RSR in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much.
Logan Grotto in the 10 closes out the rest of our podium here from Watkins Glen International. The race is over tonight, but make sure to join us here on Wednesday night, June 14th at 9:25 p.m. Eastern for the sport class, and that'll be here from upstate New York. So the racing continues for PCA Sim Racing as we wind down the Series 10 season in 2023. We'd like to thank our sponsors for Series 10 for making this all possible. First of all, the Porsche Exchange for all of their continuous support, and of course for Six Sigma Sim Racing, the proud sponsor of the Clean Driver Award. A huge thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a big thank you to everybody at Podium Esports, Gary Sexton, John Theodore, and for our broadcast crew tonight, for our social media manager, Cameron Auburnon, our producer tonight, Ryan Bauer, our camera creator, Dougie Beard, and for always my commentator in the booth, DJ Clark. My name is Kenneth Bueno, saying thank you so much for watching our broadcast of PCA Sim Racing from the Glen. We'll see you on the track next Wednesday night.